Good evening, everybody. I'm Evan Teach. I'm the Town and Village Manager. Tonight, April 5th, is the reorganization meeting of the Town Select Board. So I am going to start tonight's meeting. Our first order of business before we approve the agenda and public to be heard is the annual reorganization of the Town Select Board. Greg has muted everybody, so please make sure you stay muted until you are called upon, except for the board members. And so every year, the select board nominates its own chair, and then once that chair is selected, seconded, and elected, the chair does the vice chair and the clerk position on the board, and then runs the meeting. The way this works is I will take a nomination from the members of the board. I will then take a moment to ask if there are any other nominations. I will then ask for a second, and then we will take a vote. Is that clear to everybody? I could go with nods or thumbs. Okay. With that, I will take a nomination or nominations for select board chair. Mr. Murray.
I would like to nominate Andy Watts as select board chair.
Select board members, are there any other nominations for select board chair? In the fashion of others before me, going once, going twice. Do I have a second for Andy Watts as select board chair?
I will second that motion.
Tracy Delphi has seconds. All those in favor of Andy Watts being select board chair, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Hearing none, that was 5-0. Mr. Watts, the meeting is now yours.
Yikes.
Those are the first words.
Yeah. Okay, I guess I will open the floor for nominations for vice chair. Do we have any nominations for vice chair? Oh, Vince, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to nominate Pat Murray for vice chair.
Second.
Oh, we have to wait for other nominations.
I was supposed to wait. Sorry about that.
No problem. Following with what Evan did on the previously. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none. Do we have a second?
I can second it.
Yep. Okay, we are voting for whether to approve Pat Murray as vice chair of the select board for the coming year. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Congratulations, Pat.
Thank you kindly.
And now we have the clerk position. Historically, we've the newest member has often been elected to that position. I know Vince didn't really get a fair shake at performing all of the duties this past year because we've been remote. The duties of the clerk are to sign the minutes and also chase the rest of the select board around to get signatures when we're having actual in-person signatures. So I guess I will open the floor to nominations for clerk.
Well, I will follow typical Essex Select Board practice and nominate Tracy Delphia for clerk.
Any other nominations or volunteers for that matter? Hearing none, do we have is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Don. Okay, all those in favor of Tracy Delphia to be clerk of the select board for the coming year, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Congratulations, Tracy. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item. I'm looking forward to working with all of you in the coming year. Not just the officers, but all the others. I should have said thank you first instead of yikes. Although I am a little terrified of this whole situation, but we'll get through. I'm sure we'll get through. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item, agenda additions and changes. Are there any changes from staff?
No additions from staff. I do want to point out there was a typo that a couple of you caught on the consent agenda. It was for items 7B and 7C, the paving grants. The memos erroneously said Sand Hill Road instead of Essex Way and Old Stage Road. Beyond that, there's no other issues or no discrepancies in those memos. So I will leave it to the board if you want to pull those off consent to discuss further, or just leave it on consent knowing what the issue is. Either way is fine by staff.
Any preference from the board?
I think as long as staff is aware, we can leave them right where they are.
Okay, Tracy or Vince? No issues?
No, I'm good with that.
All right.
Fine with me.
Thumbs up, Pat? All right. Okay, so we will, any other changes from select board members? Anything you want to pull out of consent? Looks like no, so okay, so we don't need to approve the agenda. Moving on to item number 5 in the agenda, public to be heard. This is the time for public to speak to the select board on things that are not on the agenda. I guess if you want to speak, raise your hand using the raise your hand feature in Microsoft Teams, or put a comment in the chat. I'm trying to figure out how to see all of these different things at once. I got myself a second monitor, but it's not really doing what I was hoping it would. But
Andy, Betsy Dunn has her hand raised. You might have to scroll down. The Teams is set up so usually select board members and staff are at the top. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see that there, or up at the top, you'll be able to see when there's a hand raised, a little icon pops up showing that there's a 1 or 2, however many people have their hand raised.
And then just for fun, the phone calls are usually at the absolute bottom, but I don't see any phone call people yet.
okay. Okay, Betsy.
Okay. Hi, thank you. I have a question, and I'm not sure if it is on the agenda. I will admit that, but it's on the agenda for you guys to have in closed session. So is it okay for me to comment on that?
Mr. Chair, I guess it depends on what the question is.
Okay, so let me ask this question. You're going to discuss the salaries and the raises that our unionized group is going to get this next 3 years. And I'm wondering if you don't want to hold that discussion till after we have the vote next week, because if you approve it and then we end up having a separation, it's just going to possibly create a lot of havoc. And I'm just wondering if you want to hold it. That's all.
So whether we do or don't separate, we'll have town employees. So I think I'm not sure there's a conflict there. We could think about that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you for the question. Okay, I see Adam Newhart has his hand up.
Hey, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Great. So this comment is actually for you, Andy. So I live in the town outside the village, and I certainly want to comment on one of your front porch forum posts from March 31st titled "Missing Information About Separation." So in it, you led people to believe that the $2.7 million TOV budget deficit calculated by the finance director wasn't anywhere near accurate. You called it, and I quote, so-called $2.7 million shortfall, and stated that the calculations, again, a quote, significantly overstated the amount that would need to be cut from the town budget to keep the tax rates the same. Now, you made these statements without supplying really any concrete evidence to back up those statements. And so here's my concern. And of course, obviously you can respond when I'm done if you would. So when you speculate on ideas and don't provide people with specifics, you give them an excuse to ignore facts and further cement them in their views, regardless of which way they're leaning on merger. So this prevents a genuine conversation among town residents about merger and separation. It also undermines the hard work of town employees, bringing them unjust scrutiny simply for doing their job when you describe their work the way you did. And what I'm most concerned about is how people use what you said to make their decision on the merger. You know, $2.7 million is a big deficit. It's about 25% of that projected budget for the TOV. And to make up that gap, taxes have to go up quickly and services are going to be cut. And when I think about taxes going up quickly and services cut, I really, truly, genuinely think about all those people who are living on fixed incomes, paycheck to paycheck, or who rely on WIC. You know, they will bear the brunt of those statements in the event we separate. And not only will their wallets be hit the hardest, but the services they rely on, like the senior center, the buses, and the library will likely be the first to be cut. And now I appreciate that you stated that your comments were your own, but I don't think that that's a free pass for any select board member to publicly speculate to thousands of their constituents on Front Porch Forum. I think it was misleading, unprofessional, and it's a pattern I've noticed in other posts you've made. And I would really appreciate if you would check what you're saying before you send those things out, because you certainly represent all of the town of Essex. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll respond to that briefly. On the second page of the memo that I was referring to, or that the town staff published, there was a very explicit list, and I actually quoted that paragraph verbatim in my post that listed out all the things that were not included, that were not pulled out, and then I offered a few examples of it. I guess that's. Thank you for your comments. It's definitely something that weighs heavily on me, whether to post. And if you've read all my posts, you see that I did agonize over many of the earlier posts as well. It's a challenging position to be in. Okay, I see Annie Cooper has her hand up.
I'm so angry. I'm so angry that I'm giving myself a second before I speak. What I just heard Anna Newhart speak to are also my thoughts. And your response should have been a public apology. And I look forward to your public apology going out to every single Front Porch Forum for the confusion and indecision that you as a leader have shown out into our community. You undermine Sarah Macy, you undermine her role, her position, our staff, our entire management team. You second guess someone publicly, and you have an opportunity, you have a tool as a select board member that you know full well how to use, where you ask the town manager to set up a workshop and find out your answers to your questions there, instead of publicly speculating to 22,000 people who are currently trying to vote on the most important vote in the history of Essex. I am somewhere in between having lost complete and utter faith and respect in you as a leader and wanting to ask for your resignation. I am hopeful that Patrick's leadership here this evening to nominate you as chair, and Patrick's leadership here this evening in sitting confidently beside you shows you some form of how to be a leader. Because right now I do not have faith in your leadership, Andy. And that is a very strong thing for me to say. Our community needs clear understanding from our leadership about the choices we are making. Patrick, I'm sorry. I realized that your hand going up maybe told me I went too far. I will slow myself down a little bit. I'm simply frustrated that our community needs information. I don't mind which way the vote goes. Voting is personal to people, but your leadership has to help people form their judgments. And I ask that the 5 people sitting here before us, representing the entirety of the town of Essex, stand somewhere, get off the fence. The fence does not help us. We need your leadership, and we need you to stand firmly and confidently somewhere. A stance at yes on merger is a yes on merger. A stance at no on merger is a yes to complete separation by the village. Please choose one. We need to hear it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Annie. I did see Patrick's hand go up before Elise. I don't know, Patrick, you want to go, or should I let public continue?
Yeah, no, I'll go. Certainly with absolute and all due respect for the process of public to be heard. I do think that, Andy has been chair for 5 minutes. The specific personal attacks against him, while, we can certainly critique any one of us as select board members and the job, in particular that we do. I think all of us, certainly come to these meetings and, try to, if anyone has a critique against us as select board members or individuals, certainly levy the critique, but I think that we can try to avoid any personal attacks that may be crossing a line. Just a reminder for individuals, we as select board members sign up for this, so I don't think anyone's going to be too upset if I get called out at some point, but just we all know that it's also hard to sit in the chair, so that's it. We can keep going.
All right, thank you, Patrick. Yeah, you're right. Criticism or comments about elected officials are certainly protected speech, and we should hear it. I'm sorry, Annie, you're asking again.
If I may extend an apology, Andy, because Patrick is absolutely correct. I'm very sorry that I didn't have the wherewithal to temper my statement and make it more mildly inclusive of all and speak more directly to the cause and not the person. I apologize deeply from my heart about personally speaking to you that way, and I only meant to convey my strong feelings and got a little lost in the process. I appreciate Patrick's, when I saw his hand go up, I did wonder if that was part of it. And so I appreciate your dedication to task. I appreciate your hard work. And I sincerely apologize for bringing personal items into our conversation. Oh, one more thing. We probably should have read the civility thing just as a reminder for next time. It would have put me in a good place too for next time, maybe. Thank you all very much for your time. And thank you for this discussion.
Okay, thank you, Annie. Elise, it's your time.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you. So this is also in regards to Chairman Watt's posting on Front Porch Forum. And I would bring this to every select board member. And I would say this to the trustees too. If you are posting as a resident and as on a personal opinion, which Andy, I believe that's what you stated, I would really prefer that you post that under a personal Front Porch Forum account, not your select board account, because actually that does carry weight. And people do look to that. And Andy, that's a responsibility that I know you said you struggle with, but there would be a great way to do it, would be to use your own personal account, because I think that does make a difference. And you do hold a position in this community, and your disclaimer doesn't really work when it comes in under your Front Porch Forum Select Board. Also, I'd like to say, Andy, you were had mentioned that you were responding to questions from the public, which I think is awesome. Thank you so much for that. I did post a question to you also on Front Porch Forum that asked for you to clarify for us your stand on yes for merger or no for merger. I think that's very important because right now, as a village resident, I'm not clear about where you stand, and I'm also not clear if you actually represent me. So if you'd clarify that at some point, thank you.
Yeah, I'll answer that question right now. I have said many times that I am not against merger, but I just do not like the plan that's going forward. It's the plan that I'm against, the current one we're voting on, not the concept of merger. I've said that many times. And also, I guess to respond to another thing that Elise said, it's interesting that I'm being asked to only post on it would be the Essex Center Front Porch Forum, because previously my first posts, my first many posts, that's how I posted them, and I was criticized for doing that, as for doing it only on that one. And so it's yeah, I understand. And some people like it one way, some people like it the other, and that's understandable. Let's see. I see Betty Poulin with her hand up.
Hi, I just have a general question. How does the town communicate real-time election results to voters? In recent elections, it seems like I've gotten the information either through the Essex Reporter. Sometimes I see the candidates who have run for office post the results, or sometimes even the village does. So does the town post results real time on the website, or how is that done? So just a clarification for that would be appreciated. Thanks.
I don't know the answer to that. I know that candidates will often stay at the polls until the count until a preliminary count is available. And they'll often, if because we have 2 polling places, we'll have a friend or someone else at the other polling station so that they can get both numbers together. But I don't know, Evan, I don't know if you know what our, where we don't.
Yeah.
Post it.
Unfortunately, we don't have people on staff that time of night. The clerk has to take all the votes. She gives a preliminary total to the poll watchers. Usually the media is there. The candidates are there. Then she has to go back to the office and do a whole lot of paperwork that is related to the election. This year was a lot more paperwork than in previous years. So, but I take the comment that maybe we can work on getting a posting onto our website that night with at least what is preliminary election results. Usually preliminary usually ends up being exactly what they end up being. But we had some very close election totals. Right. But I can talk with the clerk and with the people who do our website and see what we can post these next elections.
Great, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I see Adam Newhart's hand. Is your hand still up, or are you wanting to talk again?
I'm sorry, Dark Forces are putting my hand up. That was an accident.
Okay.
I'll put it down.
All right, thank you. Okay, I don't see any other hands up. I don't see anybody on the phone either. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Either go ahead and jump in. Okay, now I see the chat. Okay.
Mr. Chair, Irene Renner has her hand up now.
Okay, Irene, go ahead.
Thanks very much. Congratulations to all the people who have just been elected to fill those official positions. Okay. I think anyone who's watched meetings for a few months has seen how Andy agonized over posting things townwide, received permission from his board to do that, and then was called out by the chair anyway at a subsequent meeting. So I think when somebody works as hard as Andy does to follow the protocol, the last thing that should happen is for the public to come on this meeting or any meeting and castigate him. The numbers from Sarah, last I knew, that were presented at the prior select board meeting did not take into account that half of the population, if there were a separation, would not need to be provided services. It was a last minute memo that the public did not get to see, and I think that's unfortunate. And I would hope that this new select board would make sure that the rules of engagement are followed. And that is that no one gets a memo at a meeting and has to start talking about it or deciding on it without the public and without them having several days to look at it. That should be the rare exception, not the rule. And I don't appreciate members of the public conflating the merger vote, which is merely a revote, a yes or no on merger, with a survey question on the village ballot about separation. Thanks so much. Bye.
Okay, thank you, Irene. I do want to mention, though, that if folks are interested in our communications policy, it is on the agenda later. So if you want to hang around till business item 6H, you can certainly comment on the communication policy at that point as well. Okay, any other? I see Annie Cooper's hand is back up again.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. I just want to be clear that we are sitting at a select board meeting and we're literally in a historic moment of a vote. A yes on merger is a yes on merger. A no on merger is.
Annie, are you arguing with Irene, or you're making a point?
I'm speaking to. Sorry, Select Chair Watts. I'm speaking to our select board.
Okay.
I feel that if something's not clear, it should be made clear. So, I guess I'm just a little confused about we're voting on this current plan of merger. This is the only plan of merger we're voting on. We're not voting on a future plan, so we're voting on a plan of merger. As a village resident, I also have a ballot item that if this current plan of merger fails, we're voting to separate, on complete separation. And I think that to pretend that that's not true is not comfortable. So anyway, thank you for listening.
Thanks, Annie. Any other comments? Comments, questions, concerns, complaints, compliments? All right, thank you. Thank you for all of that. I certainly do listen to and agonize over a lot of these kind of questions, and keep the comments coming. They are helpful. Okay, moving on to business item 6A, presentation of Across the Dotted Line, Community Connections in Essex. And we have Gabrielle Smith and Henry Wu.
Hi.
Welcome.
Before we get started, we were hoping, Henry, are you able to share your screen? And if not, is that able to happen?
Right now, I'm not able to, but is there a way that I could?
I don't think we can do it on the fly. Henry, if you want to send me the information or the presentation you have, I can pull it up and you can just tell me when to flip through the slides. It's G Duggan, GDUGGAN at essex.org.
I don't think we don't have slides, so.
Oh, okay.
Greg, I think I just made him a presenter.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I guess we can do it on the fly. I'm glad we have a technologically savvy person with us.
Thank you, Vince.
Thank you.
Anytime.
All right, Henry. Thanks for your patience, everyone. So thank you for having us tonight. We're here to provide you with an overview of a new initiative, Across the Dotted Line, Community Connections in Essex. This photo story initiative is created and organized by the Heart and Soul of Essex. For those of you who aren't familiar with us, the Heart and Soul of Essex is a nonprofit created 9 years ago to manage a grant from the Orton Family Foundation to implement their community heart and soul model here in Essex. This nonprofit has continued since the end of that project in 2014 with the purpose of stewarding and highlighting the 6 community values that were identified through the project with input from over 1,000 residents of Essex. Those values are local economy, health and recreation, community connections, education, thoughtful growth, and safety. For more details about those values and information on the activities and outreach to gather the data that went into them, please visit our website at heartandsoulofessex.org.
Across the Dotted Line is designed to engage residents of the town of Essex to post photos and story captions that describe a connection you share across the dotted line that is the border of the village within the town. Essex residents are invited to submit a photo and a caption with a short story about the people in the photo, their connection across the dotted line, and if they're inclined, something they both love about Essex. Photos and story captions can be submitted via email or with hashtag across the dotted line on Facebook or Instagram. And I'll show you briefly what those look like. We actually just created an Instagram page today. Information on participating and more details on the project, as well as a growing photo gallery, can be found on our website at www.heartandsoulofessex.org. And briefly, you can see more details about the project and how to participate here on our website.
This is also another opportunity we hope to help get out the vote. Residents who are interested in helping get out the vote for the Town of Essex article, the Essex Westford School District ballot, and the Village of Essex Junction ballot are invited to hold up a sign in their photo that simply says, "Vote on April 13th. No other messages related to the upcoming ballot will be allowed. Heart and Soul of Essex has no position on any of the ballot questions and is not sharing any links to voter information. Existing photos are also terrific submissions. There's no need to take a photo specifically for the initiative. Share one you already have. Just be sure that all people in the photo agree to have it posted and shared publicly. Additional details on submission guidelines can be found on our website." This initiative has no other cost than the time that Henry and I are putting into it. We are not requesting any funds or time of the select board or staff. Our current plan is to maintain the growing photo gallery and keep it up for a period of time after the vote is over at the discretion of the Board of Heart and Soul of Essex, to manage the social media hashtags during the initiative and see where the community takes this. We hope to have many photos and stories on our website for the community to see. Whether this project takes off ultimately depends on residents participating.
Why is now the time to promote our shared value of community connections? While there are many voices in the community sharing information and differing points of view, especially about the revote on the merger, Heart and Soul of Essex is offering a reminder that we are connected by our history, our economy, our schools, our social networks, our faith communities, our volunteerism, our landscape, and so much more. Relationships are an easy way for people to think about and actualize this. A photo is a powerful storyteller. The Heart and Soul of Essex project sought to ensure that as Essex continues to grow and change, we hold on to what is special about our community and that decisions reflect what matters to the people who live and work here. This initiative is a continuation of that purpose. We hope that many residents will participate, submit photos and captions of no more than 100 words, and enjoy viewing the gallery at heartandsoulofessex.org and photos as they are shared on Facebook and Instagram.
Thanks, Henry. We're happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Oh, and I have a compliment. Thank you so much to Andy and Pat for sharing a photo, and that's been, Andy may want to pop on that one. So, and as you can see, for select board and the public, that those are the story captions we're referring to. Those are written by the submitters of the photo. And that there's a 100 word limit there.
Okay, thank you, Gabrielle. Patrick.
Thanks, Gabrielle. I was going to say, I'm really glad. I was actually going to wear that shirt tonight at the meeting, and I'm glad I didn't, because it would have looked really awkward. I have more than 2 shirts. But I do think that this is a good initiative. You know, I think it's no secret that we're, you know, clearly going through some change. We have a new board member, a new board chair. You know, and Andy and I have had a chance to talk a little bit, and I think that you know, there's a clear need in our community right now to lower the temperature. You know, a significant amount. You know, certainly not to say that we don't all have our very strong opinions on how we feel about merger and separation and whatever they're going to be. But the long and short of it is that no matter what happens at the vote going forward, we're still going to be linked for an extended period of time, both Essex Junction and the TOV. And ultimately, I think that while a lot has been said about, you know, kind of the different communities that exist, quite simply, we are in a 6 by 6 square mile area. You know, it's 36 square miles of land, and it's not that much. You know, I am sure I will get flack for saying this, and I apologize in advance, but, you know, I'm gonna take my Northeast Kingdom cred and say that there's no part of rural Essex that anyone from the Northeast Kingdom would look at and say that's rural. I think that most people would probably look at rural Essex and think that we're all city folk. You know, it's kind of it's all about perspective. You know, none of us live all that far from one another, and it's absolutely the time to kind of take a deep breath and realize, you know, how much damage some of the words that are out there are having. So I guess really kind of in conclusion, it was me being on the soapbox a little bit, but also this initiative is coming at, I think, a really good time. And I hope you guys see a lot of participation. So I was more than happy to do it with Andy, and look forward to a lot of other similar pictures to come.
Thanks, Pat.
Okay, thanks, Pat. Any other board member comments, questions?
I think Pat summed it up pretty nicely.
See Don nodding. Vince, any comments?
Yeah, I just want to extend my appreciation to both Gabrielle and Henry for their presentation and the work they do in the community. I wholeheartedly agree with, you know, crossing those dotted lines. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I see Ken Signorillo in the public has his hands up.
Thank you. I think the across the dotted line idea is great. And if we're allowed to, and the timing is right, the darkroom gallery certainly is available for a reception if you ever get that far. The other thing is Essex seems to be shrinking. Essex is in fact 39 square miles, not 36. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? So I guess to ask a question, you're not asking for anything here. You're just offering this as information about what you're up to. Okay, great.
Yeah, I felt it was important that, and the board as well felt it was important that you all and the whole community have as clear an understanding of what this project is about and what it is not about. And it is our intention to be as impartial in this space as we are indeed impartial as a board and as a nonprofit. And and for all of us, we felt that this was something that that we were able to do and see how the community responds and see if it's something that resonates and fills a need. And it's okay if it doesn't, because you know, there isn't any money going into this. And thankfully, Henry has been willing to step into this space with me, and it couldn't have happened without him and without the support of the rest of the board of Heart and Soul of Essex. So just thank you all for your time. And I know you have a full agenda. So if there aren't any questions, I think you know where to find me. And please let us know if there's anything more we can do to support the community at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you, Gabrielle and Henry, for your presentation. All right. Okay, moving on to business item 6B, consider approval of first and third class liquor license renewals, including outdoor consumption permits. Greg, you wanna?
Sure, there's a few more liquor license applicants, renewals in this case for the first item, that have come in since the last time you saw them. The clerk's office and the police have both vetted the applications and are comfortable with the select board giving the approvals. That's the gist. I'm happy to try to answer any questions about them if there are any.
Good. Okay, any questions from the select board members? Okay, if not, does anybody have the motion available? Patrick?
I am curious. There were 2 recommendations listed here for 2 memos, and I apologize. I'm looking at them, and I'm not sure, Greg, I'm not sure which of the 2 you would prefer. I see that they're, at least in the packet, the second one lists some specific business names. Do we need to do both of those? Because they're both titled regarding liquor license applications. I just want to make sure I get the right one.
Let me share the memo, Pat, on my screen.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's this first one is for some renewals.
I think they were out of order in the. Oh, there's 2. B and C are both in the same agenda item. Okay, I get it.
Yes, there was one.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, so the first one is for the renewals. Then we have a couple of new applications, and then there's the second class renewals after that. And yeah, Andy just nailed it. The first memo covers B and C. So the one I have pulled up right now will suffice for item B, the renewals, first and third class renewals.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was looking for. Then I will make a motion to approve the first, third class liquor license renewals listed in the March 31st memorandum regarding liquor license applications.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Vince. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Oh, sorry. Aye. Any other comments? I should ask for other comments first. Sorry. Okay, hearing none. Sorry. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. The liquor license renewals passes. Moving on to agenda item 6C, which is the next right page of that same agenda item. The new first and third class liquor licenses with outdoor consumption permits. And I believe we typically do specifically list them for a first for new ones. I think that's why they're listed here.
Correct. For the first, for the new applications, we typically list them out. In this case, we have RRBL LLC doing business as Barnyard, 1 David Drive. We also have FRG Essex LLC doing business as The Scale. I believe I saw one of the applicants from the Barnyard in the list of participants here tonight. I am not sure if anybody is here from The Scale. But yeah, similar process. The select board, The police and the clerk have vetted the applications. They're comfortable with select board approval. But if the select board has any questions, again, I can try to answer, and at least one of the applicants is here as well.
Okay, so any questions from board members? Patrick.
No specific questions, but I certainly would like to meet the applicants if they are here and available. Certainly feel free to speak up if you're in attendance. I see a
So we
Perry
have
Farr.
Perry Farr, yeah.
Yeah, hi, it's Neil and Perry. We're here.
Could you share information about your establishment and
Yes.
Are you open? What are your plans for your business? Kind of
All right, so we are The Scale. We have a location in Williston, and we opened a location on Pearl Street in Essex Junction in November of last year. We are full operation. We have outdoor seating, and we're looking to get a alcohol license to serve beer and wine and outdoor consumption, things of that nature.
Okay, great. Thank you. And so your business, you're already open and you're serving. Yeah, because I've been there. Food's good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome to town. Your food's great.
Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We're very happy to be in Essex. We love it.
Okay. Are there any other new license applicants in the audience?
Yes, my name's Paul Handy, and we're with the Barnyard Group, currently open in South Burlington, looking to open in Essex Junction in the next month and a half. And same thing, we're looking to get our first and third class liquor and beer wine license.
Okay, great. Are you open yet? Or
we're currently not open in Essex. We do have a location open in South Burlington though, and we're doing service over there.
Do you have a date when you want to open?
About I would say May 4th, around there. We're looking to might be on. I think the Monday is the 2nd or the 3rd, so it might actually. I think it's the 3rd, Monday the 3rd. We're looking.
Okay, great. Anyone else? So Barnyard and Scale is just the two, right? Okay. Okay, any other comments or questions from board members? No, okay.
I just want to say thank you to the owners of The Scale. I absolutely love your food. It's a regular haunt for me and my girlfriend. We get takeout from you almost every week.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very much appreciated. We love customers like you that give us feedback.
All right, if there's no other comments, I'll take a motion.
I will motion the select board approve the first, third, and third class new liquor license applications for RRBL LLC, doing business as Barnyard, and FRG Essex LLC, doing business as The Scale Essex. These are listed in the March 31st memorandum regarding liquor license applications.
So including outdoor consumption permits. Do we need to say that?
Yes.
Okay, including outdoor consumption permits.
I will still second that.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Any other comments? If not, okay.
Do you have
all
the
those...
admonishment handy?
I don't have the admonishment.
Can't do it from memory?
Like I could wing it, I suppose.
I'd be happy to do it for you.
Yeah, let's do your best, Andy. Let's give it a try.
Okay, so we as the select board and acting as the Liquor Control Board, take the issuance of liquor license very seriously, and we expect you to also. We expect you not to serve minors or obviously inebriated folks, and to follow all the Vermont regulations required by Vermont state statute and Liquor Control Board. And thank you for opening your business, establishing a business in Essex, and we wish you the best of luck.
Well done, yeah.
I've heard it many times.
Thanks for bailing out staff, Andy.
Yeah, all right. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, moving on to business item 6D. Consider approval of second-class liquor license renewals.
6D, there's a few second-class liquor license renewals that are up for renewal, have applied. Once again, the clerk's office and the police department have reviewed the applications and are comfortable with select board approval.
So any questions or comments from board members?
I'll get right to it. I motion select board approve the second class renewals for Wesco Inc. doing business as Champlain Farms at 25 Jericho Road and 56 Pearl Street. Liquor license renewals are listed in the April 1st memorandum regarding liquor license applications.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second that.
You heard Tracy first. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you. It's funny, I'm finding as chair, I'm forgetting to say aye. I don't know why. Okay, moving on to business item 6E, consider reconstitution of the town village stormwater coordinating committee and appointment of a select board member to the committee. Who's presenting for this? Is that
That's the old.
be Dennis?
That's me. Good evening, all. I'll try to be as quick at this as I can because you have a long meeting and I'm aware that there's a basketball game on later tonight. So things have to be kind of put in perspective. Back in 2013, the select board at that time, based upon staff urging, formed a stormwater coordinating committee. It was made up of a select board member, a trustee member, 2 members at large from the public and the staff, as well as the manager. That committee was instrumental because we had a permit that was issued. We've had a number of permits from the state on stormwater, the MS4 permits. But that committee was really instrumental in solving a couple problems that were able to be done by the committee with staff help that then went back to both boards so that we could proceed with meeting our obligations under the permit. Back then it was flow restoration, which is trying to get our streams cleaned up. And there was a lot of independent developments in the town that had individual stormwater permits that were kind of on their own. And through the ordinance that the boards passed, through work by everyone, we were able to get all those permits under the town's permit so that there was a universal coverage for the flow portion of that. That was critical. So we've basically built 3 out of 4 projects. We hope to go to the 4th one next year. So for our 2013 permit, we've really done remarkably well. With all these things, a new permit came out in 2017. This one related to the lake and removing phosphorus from both communities. Our streams, irrespective of town and village boundaries, our streams don't recognize political boundaries. And so most of our waters start in the town, flow into the village, and in some cases flow back through the town before they make it to the lake. It's important that we work together both now and into the future. One of the biggest items that we have facing both communities is there's a requirement for us to remove phosphorus from the lake, and it's a 20-year plan. In your reading file, there was a document that was put together for you that kind of brought you up real quick speed on the phosphorus control plan. It's a lengthy, complicated document. Technically, we had a consultant perform the study. As we've done in the past, the village got the grant, but it was a joint process with the town and the village to look at both our communities and how we meet this obligation. It's in draft form. The permit required that we submit a plan to the state by April 1st. Because it's so complicated, our consultant could not get it to us in time to get it to the board to go through the whole ramifications of the involvement of that. So the decision was made that we would send that draft to the state with our comments and tell them it was a draft, because at some point, both the select board and the trustees will have to adopt a plan. And part of that plan, and the most difficult part, isn't so necessarily the technical piece, but how we pay for it. And that's a critical component. We have 20 years to do this, but it involves everything from improving our gravel roads, putting stone out there, outfalls on a lot of areas in the town, building facilities, rebuilding facilities, all aimed at phosphorus removal, sweeping our streets more, year round, other than obviously when it snows. But right now we do fall and spring, and we're going to end up doing that mostly year round. So there's a lot of things on the table. We felt that this is the point where once the coordinating committee kind of met what it was intended to do under the directive given by the previous board, we kind of didn't hold meetings because staff was just carrying out what the board said they wanted us to carry out and what the committee said they wanted us to carry out. But now it's a different ballgame. Now we've got to kind of recalibrate, look at phosphorus, look at things that have to change in some of our zoning ordinances that relate to stormwater, and that's partially planning commission, but it's also partially going to end up at some point in the board's hands as to what's required. And so we redid the policy on the stormwater coordinating committee to kind of take that original purpose, reword it, get it to the board so that there was direction for this committee. We talked to the people who were previously on the committee, and all have agreed to continue to serve. The only exception is that on the previous committee, the member from the select board was Mike Plagan, and Mike is no longer on the select board. And we really think that it's important to have a select board member there, just as it's important to have a trustee member there, because it works both ways. They can kind of have input from the board to us as to what might be acceptable, and from us to the board in terms of what our recommendations might be. And so we'd very much like to reconstitute the committee with the policy that we've given in that memo. But more important, we'd like to have one of you serve as on the committee. And this is a committee that doesn't meet on a set date. Our schedule in the past has been about once every 4 to 6 weeks. As we get into adopting the plan, it probably will be much less, because at that point, it's going to be up to staff to carry through and build what's got to be built. But it's going to take us time to get there. The memo requests that the board appoint someone. I'm not asking that you appoint someone tonight. I know that there's a lot on the agenda and it's a brand new board, and you probably want to think about this. If you have someone that wants to volunteer and wants to get into this and do it, it's great. If in fact you want to postpone it and think about it for a future meeting, I'm going to be back on the 19th with the water sewer budget, and I think a sewer allocation and a couple of other things that we've got scheduled for that meeting, and I'm perfectly willing to come back then and discuss it more if that's what you'd like. But it is important, we feel, that we get this committee going again. It's going to be expensive. I'm not trying to kid anyone. It's going to be an expensive, we have a long time to pay for it, so we can figure it out. But how do we pay for it? And so that's probably the most critical part, but also how we do it. What are we going to build? Where are we going to build it? And it is a joint effort. We both have targets in the village and the town, but the way to get there is to work collectively together. And I see that as a future need, whether we merge or don't merge. It's a combined effort if we're ever going to make it, because what comes out of the town in terms of water goes into the village, and what comes out of the village goes into the town as water. So we've got to work together on this into the future. So that's it. That's my pitch. I'll answer any questions you have.
Okay, thanks, Dennis. Anybody have any questions for Dennis? Pat.
Dennis, for, obviously this is, stretching so far into the future. I know it might be hesitant to, really put any dollar figures or anything on it. But is this going to be very similar to the previous stormwater plan, where there are like multiple big projects like retaining pools, that sort of thing, like at the LDS, or what's, has gone in there? Or are we looking at something that's more than just, 4 or 5 sites with, phosphorus, phosphorus draining? Sorry, I don't probably have the right terminology. I guess I'm just trying to get an idea for, you said, I recognize that there's going to be a large amount of finances that need to be put towards this, but I guess I'm trying to ballpark if we're thinking, do we need to worry about millions of dollars, or do we need to worry about hundreds of thousands of dollars?
I'll scare you. I've read the report.
Go for it.
It's a combination, and the problem is we can't do it alone with a couple of large projects. A couple of large projects that we've got planned or looked at in the report would get us a good way there. Street sweeping, increasing that would get us a good way there, doing more than we've done there. Street sweeping is a very tentative issue right now with the state because they've adopted a particular policy. If that changes, that takes the contribution that we can use to remove phosphorus way down and makes us do more. And I'm not sure that that's settled yet. So that's a concern we all have. There's a lot of other projects that need to be done that are spread all over the town and the village. And a lot of them are small. And at this point, we haven't costed them out. We've costed out some of the larger ones. We know the back roads, we're going to have to do a lot of ditch work and stone line ditches. And we've got culverts. And I can think of a couple that are way undersized. Hanley and Catella up in that area of the town, that to put in the right size culvert, we're talking almost box culverts with concrete as opposed to metal culverts. So there's a lot of cost expenses. The report at this point, using current dollars, says about 3.75 million. I think that's low. I think it's closer to 5 million over 20 years. Right now, we're putting $150,000 a year away into a joint account that the village and the town share for stormwater. $150,000 a year over 20 years doesn't give you $5 million. Now, we're going to go actively after grants. We're going to try to grab whatever we can. So it's a hard target, but it is real money. It's not the hundreds of thousands of dollars, Pat. It's real money.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Dennis. Appreciate it.
Any other questions from board members?
Curious if anyone has any interest in being on the committee. If we can give Dennis an answer tonight. I'm not sure if anyone has any burning desire or not. I'm happy to have the discussion later anyway, but I thought I might at least offer if someone really loves stormwater.
Are you interested, Patrick?
I've got to be honest, stormwater's not in my top 5 of things that interest me about local government, but it's close.
Tracy's got her hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Dennis if there are any knowledge or skills that would be helpful from a select board member on the committee.
I think interest. I think the technology is understandable, and the projects that we build, I think we've learned a lot. When I got out of college, the last thing I was going to be doing was looking at stormwater systems and how to remove phosphorus. So you can learn it. It's not hard to learn. And we're not looking for necessary technical expertise. It's more of how do we accomplish this, stay within our permit, meet our obligations, and do that in a way that the community can absorb the financial impact. You know, what's the right way to do this? And it's not like we've got to do it all in year one. We've got 20 years, but we can't do it in year 20 either. So how do we spread this out? And so a lot of the issues to me are going to be more financial impact and what are some of the best options that we might do? You know, do we do it on a project by project basis? Do we float a bond for some of these? Do we go after an increase in the 2 cents on the capital tax because it might be shared between both communities? I don't have an answer. I've got ideas, but I don't have an answer. And so I think we need to look at the types of projects, where we might fund them. We might be able to fund some out of the operational budgets every year. A lot of the road work we could do. So I think a person who has an interest, and especially an interest in how we make this work and save taxpayers money but still get the job done, is probably the biggest factor in wanting to be on it. And just an interest in it, because it's very interesting in terms of stuff that we can do that are low scale to get phosphorus out. So for me, it's kind of fun, but not for everybody. I guess I'm an engineer, so I appreciate some of that stuff.
I see Evan's hands up. You want to add anything, Evan?
Thanks. Yeah, I would say someone with interest, but also objectivity, creativity, and a willingness to be open-minded about all the options that are going to be thrown out on the table to be able to deal with a $5+ million price tag over X amount of years. There's also going to be a need to work with staff and work with our legislators on trying to obtain funding for said projects. We've been very good over the last several years getting that grant funding, but you never know. So if that helps you make your decision, there's only 5 of you, so one of you will need to step up, one would hope. But thank you.
Okay, anything else, Tracy?
No, that was it. If I would also like to get Dennis an answer tonight, if possible.
Yeah.
I would be willing to spend the time to devote to this.
Okay, thank you for that, Tracy. Vince or Don, any comments or questions?
If Tracy's interested and wants to learn, I'd say let her have it.
All right. So Dennis, the recommended motion that we have before us also includes a comment about the revised policy document. What's being revised in the policy document? Is it just the names of the participants, or is there more?
I rewrote the policy document because the old one contained, and I included it in the package, but it is a lot of reading. The old one contained phosphorus removal, flow restoration plan, permit consolidation. This one changed the direction and wanted to get that clear that, you know, we may still end up with doing some of those earlier things, but I just tried to change the direction of it in the what you're expecting that committee to do and come back to you with answers for the future. I think we've got the answers on the one that was in 2013. Yep. Now we've got to get answers to this part.
Okay. All right, so I see one hand up from the public. Board members okay with going to the public and then circling back to a board discussion? All right, Betsy Dunn.
Thanks, Andy. And this goes, I guess, sort of toward Dennis. Is this also including the PFOAs that are in Indian Brook?
The short answer is no. And I'll give a slightly longer one, but not a much longer one. There are pollutants out there that get into our waterway. And they have an impact. Chlorides have an impact. We're not going to stop salting the roads, but chlorides have an impact, and they have an impact in some areas greater than in other areas. That's something that down the road is a consideration. There is a whole series of unique things that are out there in the environment that we're just coming to grips with. And good, bad, or indifferent, the science is far ahead of us as far as testing for these critters and animals and different pollutants than we are at solving the problem. So is it going to rest with phosphorus? No. You know, my best guess is that some board in the future, probably long after we're all gone or doing other things, will have to face with some other level of pollutant in our water that we're going to have to deal with. I'm not aware of direct testing on our streams that would show that the PFOA is a problem in any particular stream, but there's a lot of stuff out there that over the long term, as our testing gets better and we start going from parts per million to parts per billion to parts per trillion, that we're going to have a requirement to clean up things more and more as we go forward. It's the nature of the beast. I think we've got a 20-year plan to clean up the lake, and I think EPA and the state is satisfied with that, but that doesn't mean there isn't more to come. And that's the best answer I can give you. At this point, we don't know. We know what's in the permit. We don't know what's in the next permit that comes at us in 10 years.
And just to follow up on that, the issue we have here on Fernwood with the stormwater there, is that also a part of this project that you're talking about?
Yeah, that would be a typical example, and the actual, we had a public meeting on a particular project that we've come up with some solutions. We think it's a good solution. The engineer is putting that together. Staff basically assembled a solution, which I think is a great solution considering all the input we had from the public. But a portion of that deals with treating phosphorus, and that's the kind of piece, you know, we might do some road work, we might do some storm drainage improvements, we might do some other things, but there's going to be a piece of that project that's going to be required to take out some phosphorus. That's the piece that would come under this program. The other pieces would be operational in normal operating budgets.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Betsy. I see Patty has her hand up.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. I'm on my husband's computer. I couldn't get on my tablet to save my life. 40 minutes later. Anyway, Dennis, I love hearing you speak about this. And I wondered if a public, you know, if public members can help the select board member that you choose and I wonder what you think of a multi-prong approach, because you know that the ETC Next plan has been approved, and transportation, and you know that we're trying to improve kind of everything multi-prong wise. And I'm very, very interested in mitigating our wetlands when it comes to chemicals and phosphorus, and you know it's really a multi-prong approach, I feel, and wonder what you think about the environmental laws. I know you think 10 years down the road, but maybe we can take this approach multi-prong wise with nature, preserving our animals and our wetlands and all that while we're building ETC Next, for example, and then work with you on doing it, building all this stuff the right way initially so we don't have to redo it to get rid of phosphorus for the next 20 years. Anyway, that's my thought.
I can make a very quick comment. Yes, I agree with you. And that's one of the things that part of the phosphorus control plan is going to be looking at our development standards to ensure that whatever we put in for new development also contains the phosphorus removal component. And with all these chemicals, I mean, when we did the full restoration, just by taking suspended solid, and I'm going to get a little technical, but just quick, just by taking suspended solids out of the waste stream, some of the phosphorus is tied up with the suspended solids. So you get a little bit of a bang for the buck if you just handle your flow better and settle stuff out. Same way with phosphorus. If phosphorus, the solution to phosphorus in a lot of cases is some treatment and filtration. Well, when you filter stuff, you pick up stuff other than just the phosphorus and in your end product. So yes, so it's whatever we do, we want to do a system that's looking not just at what's out there today, but what's into the future.
Great.
The hard part is that some of those things in the future, when when you start getting down to things like PFOA and you're testing to parts per trillion, you're almost beyond the range of current solutions. The technology is there to find this stuff, but the current solutions may not be in place to handle things that are down to that level, where you're trying to find that bit of sand in a swimming pool, and it's hard.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Patty. Any other comments or questions from the public? Okay, I don't see any, but Patty, your hand is still up. Just
So sorry. I don't know how to do this. Let's see. Is it gone now?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, thank you. Okay, so Tracy has expressed interest in participating in this committee. So if someone is willing to pose a motion to nominate Tracy and approve the policy document.
I will give it a go. Make sure I'm on the right page. Let's see. I motion that the Essex Select Board create a joint stormwater policy coordination committee for the primary purpose of providing recommendations.
I think you're on the earlier, the one that established the earlier.
Oh, yep.
So it's 6E1 is the how it's numbered in the document. Yeah, looks like Greg has it up now.
Perfect. Thank you, Greg. Saves me from scrolling. I motion that the Select Board appoint Tracy Delphia to serve on the Joint Stormwater Coordinating Committee and approve the revised policy document for the committee.
Thank you, Pat. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded.
Thanks, Don. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion is approved.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tracy.
Should be fun, Tracy. All right, okay. Moving on to the next agenda item, consider approval of rules and regulations for orderly conduct of business. Greg.
Sure. So for every year, the Select Board at its reorganizational meeting approves or reapproves a few of its policies for board business throughout the year. The first one is the rules and regulations for orderly conduct of business. Staff does have a couple of proposed changes this year. I'll just pull them up. But basically, this is a document that defines meetings, sets standards for when the meeting should take place, how they should take place, speaks to public participation at the meetings, public hearings, informational meetings, absences. It talks about conduct at the meetings, processes for taking motions and votes, and basically just the rules and regulations to operate. Staff's proposed changes for this year fall under the agenda deadline. So this is section 4 of under the participation. We previously had that items need to come in from the board members by 4 days before the scheduled meeting date. Since meetings are typically on Mondays, occasionally on Tuesdays, so based on holiday schedules, and with the number of meetings that staff is trying to support, it's going to be really helpful for us to have information in by noon on Wednesdays. So that's what we ask department heads and other staff to have business items or agenda items in by that time frame, just in terms of helping us get the packets put together, deal with any last minute changes, and hopefully get out by the end of day on Friday. So a proposed change there, instead of 4 business days, or 4 working days, excuse me. Also specifying that there might be some exceptions permitted for special meetings. Tracy had caught a typo after the packet went out under conduct of meetings, changing ensure to ensure. And those are the proposed changes. So happy to speak to those or take any other suggestions. I've got a Word document up so I can do track changes live if there are any.
Okay, thanks, Greg. You got all my questions answered there with the getting content for the memo or for the agenda was in the computer use policy, and we'll talk about that later. We're moving it from there to here, so that just puts it in, I think, in the right place. And it makes it consistent. Anybody else have any other comments or questions about the policy? Tracy.
Yeah, I wanted to suggest some language for the board's approval, adding a number 10 under conduct of meetings. And I had sent this to Greg. I'd like to read it aloud if possible. Quote, cell phones or other electronic handheld devices shall only be used during meetings for purposes related to the meeting. Phones or devices should either be turned off or placed on a setting that does not utilize an audible ring, such as silent or vibrate. Additionally, board members shall not post to social media, respond to email, or similar actions during meetings unless specifically required for the purposes of the meetings. For example, reaching a staff member or a member of the public who is needed during the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Does anyone else have any comments about this change or any other suggested changes, or I guess anything at all about this document? Pat, I think, yeah, right, your hand's up, Pat.
Unmute myself. There we go. Yeah, that I'm down with that change. Seems absolutely relevant to me, so I'm okay with including it. I think specifically one thing that I wanted to at least touch upon. Let me make sure I get the number correct. Apologies. So I have like 3 windows open. If we could scroll up to participation in public hearings, Greg, I think it's number 2. There we go. I know I brought it up earlier tonight about keeping the temperature down. I think that we should, as a select board, just kind of all be aware during the meetings that this also is relevant to not just us, but also members of the public. And it comes up because over the last year, I think that we've definitely had instances where we've had individuals who have come, to present items that certainly are not given without their share of ridicule or, a veiled or sometimes even not so veiled insult. I just want to make sure, now that we're starting a new year and hopefully trying to be a little bit more careful about the respect levels that we're all going to try to treat each other with, that we all make note of this number 2, that it is within our policy for the conduct of business, and that it's not just going to be select board, but all of us as members of the public as well attending these meetings, need to make sure that we're abiding by these sort of basic tenets. But other than that, that's all I have.
I have a little bit of concern about doing that, Pat. And I'm just one member of the board expressing my opinion. Criticism of elected officials is protected speech. I'd be a little concerned about putting something in our policy that limits the public's ability to say whatever they want.
Sorry, I apologize. I'm not looking to change any language that's not already there. I'm just trying to highlight the the specifics that are already in this.
Okay. Okay.
You know,
You're not
that-
asking to make any changes to the language. Okay. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
exactly.
I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah, no, just right. I think specifically all comments should be germane to the issue and shall be presented in a productive manner without ridicule or insults, free from tumultuous or threatening remarks or gestures. I think we can all agree that over the last year, we've had, you know, individuals who have come that have certainly, you know, kind of crossed that, you know, or towed that line. And I think that's probably from both sides of certainly the merger conversation. But I think overall, in general, it's just something that, you know, we as a board are going to want to be sure that we're being careful about tolerating. Everyone absolutely deserves to speak what's on their mind, but you know, just the level of acceptance that we have, you know, we just need to make sure that everyone feels respected, and it is part of our, you know, the rules and regulations that we follow.
Okay, thanks, Pat. Tracy, I see your hand up again.
Yeah, I think I had a copy and paste issue when I sent that language to Greg. Greg, the first part of that about cell phones is under motions and votes under number 10. So if you can just strike that from, yeah, and after, it should start out, members of the body shall not post to social media. Apologies for that. Thank you.
Did I catch that right, Tracy?
Yeah, just trying to avoid redundancy. The cell phone bit was later on, so there's no need to have it in two places.
Good catch, thanks.
Okay, Vince or Don, any comments?
I think both. I think everything's reasonable. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you both, Patrick and Tracy. And Tracy, I'm glad you fixed that because I thought I had read that cell phone thing somewhere else. So thank you.
Yeah, I was doing some editing this weekend and I just got mixed around.
So I guess a procedure question here. Greg, we typically, if we have major changes to a policy, we need to, it takes 2 meetings to completely approve it. I don't view that addition as a major change to policy. I don't know if staff.
I would not consider that a major change, but I will leave it up to the board if the board wants to see it again to digest it after tonight's meeting, or if you're comfortable approving those changes tonight, that is totally fine by staff. Well, maybe
Yes.
Andrea, so maybe not.
No, same. I'm echoing that. I don't see it as a major change. I think, Mr. Chair, you could poll the board.
Yep.
And then move on.
Yep. So I guess that's the question to the board is we do have a policy that if to change a policy, we need to introduce it in one meeting, and to make a major change to a policy or introduce a new policy, we need to introduce it in one meeting and then vote on it in the next. If it's not a major change, then we can introduce and vote in the same meeting. Any thoughts on whether this needs to be voted on our next meeting, or whether we can approve it tonight?
I'm fine with approving it tonight.
I'm also fine with approving it tonight.
I'm in favor of approving it tonight.
All right.
I'm good. I don't see these as major changes either.
Okay. Board has had their say. Any comments from the public on this document? I see, I thought I saw Betty Davis's hand up, but I think it went down again.
Oops.
Okay, so I don't see any hands up.
Andy, I think Patty does want to speak.
Patty, do you want to speak?
Oh,
Patty
go
Davis?
for it. Go for it. I just want you to know that, you know, everything you're doing, I think it's great. Going over all the rules and regulations, and it's a good system that you have. And I'm really excited about our new board makeup. And all of you have such good strengths. And I've gotten to know Tracy personally, campaigning for her with my dog, Zoe, who wore her sign on her back. And I want you to know she is the most open-minded, the best listener, the best. She's just great. And I'm so, so happy that you guys are going to be working with her. And Andy,
So Patty, can we
I
keep
just
this
want
to
you to know it's
the
great.
agenda item?
That's, I'm sorry. Yeah, but the agenda item, go for it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I see Scott Moore's hand up.
Hi, Andy. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
And my quick question is, in these communication policies, is there any paragraph or section, or should there be, especially in the COVID age, about electronic meetings versus in-person meetings? I don't know that we need to necessarily, but I just wanted to toss it out there. You know, with this kind of thing, I know in my industry, we were shut down because there was a rule saying we had to be in person, and there was no ability to do things electronically. So just tossing it out there, if there's anything that you want to put in there at this point in time about electronic versus in-person meetings.
Yeah, I think we're relying on the authorization to do so from the state legislature and the Secretary of State's office. And so rather than have a potentially conflicting policy if changes are made at the state level, I think that's just my opinion. I guess we could see if others have other comments as well on the board. Or I see Evan's hand up.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we're operating virtual under the guidance from the governor and the state. I think that once they give us new guidance, then it would be appropriate to address what the board may want to do with virtual meetings and in-person meetings, and keeping in mind that your attendance is way up.
Right.
Virtually.
Yeah, that's a very good
staff
point.
is also working on a solution to be able to try to do both at the same time.
Yeah, so Scott, I think the tack would be if we're allowed to do this permanently, or to do some in person, some online, or allow participation from online, then at that point we would incorporate that in our own policy. I don't know, other board members, any other thoughts on that? All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for the question, Scott. I see Betsy Dunn. Hand up.
Andy, I was just going to take my hand down. Evan kind of answered it. I hope that even when we're able to get together, we still do have the option of having a Zoom meeting or Microsoft, because I think it does help with attendance, and more people know what's going on is great. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thanks, Betsy. Okay. Any other comments? Okay, if not, I will entertain a motion to approve with the as amended.
So moved.
One thing that we don't actually specify in this document is that I'd like to get away from the "so moved" phrase, so that we're not forcing our recording secretary to go figure out what was actually moved. So and I know it's a little more work for all of us, but if you could go find the recommended wording and try to use that as.
That's fair enough. I move that the select board approves the rules and regulations of orderly conduct of business as amended.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I heard Don. So thank you, Vince and Don. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. We move on to conflict of interest policy. Greg?
So conflict of interest policy is the next one on the list of the select board for the select board to review and approve each year. Staff does not have any proposed changes to the policy this year, although once again, I have a Word file up in case any of the board members have anything they'd like to take a look at. I can do track changes and we can follow along if there are any suggested changes.
Okay, do any board members have any suggested changes or comments or questions about the document? Okay, I'm not seeing any. The only comment I want to make is that I have for the past many years, or since the ownership of the big factory in Essex Junction changed hands, have been recusing myself from specific topics at the request of the legal team at my former employer, and I'm no longer employed there, so I don't have to do that anymore. So just wanted to bring that up again, and I think that may be the last time I have to bring it up. That was the document that I used to as guidance.
I did have one question on this. In Article 10, the Section A, it talks about a public official is recused oneself of proceedings, shall not sit with the board, deliberate with the board, participate in that proceeding as a board member in any capacity, nor remain physically present in the room. Should we add something for digital meetings there? So something like the elected official must like end their digital meeting or something like that. So like if you're using Teams, you would log out of Teams until someone lets you back in.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to leave that for the same comment as before, that once we get to a point where we're allowed to do this permanently, then we could make the change. I don't know. I see Evan's got his hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I would think for now, one of the things that I would recommend that if you do recuse yourself, you mute your microphone and you take your camera off so that people cannot see your facial expressions. And then you would be considered in our minutes that you were not participating. But I think you would make it very clear that you're recusing yourself. That would be in the minutes. And then again, turn your mic off and your camera while that is being discussed, and then come back after the motion.
I've handled this in two ways in the past. One is I've completely logged out of the meeting so that I also couldn't hear what was being said, and asked that I be texted to rejoin when the subject was over. The other way that I've handled it is to ask for that particular agenda item to be moved to last on the agenda, and then I would just leave and not come back. That way I wasn't even listening to the content, which I think, which sounds to me like is the intent here.
Yeah, because even if you have your microphone muted and your camera off, you can still listen, and that's, I don't want to say that's participating, but you're kind of still with the discussion. I don't know. I think it's cleaner if you leave the meeting and then have to be.
Well, you can. I'm somewhat worried sometimes with Teams or Zoom, if it's one of those times when you just have trouble getting back in. But that is, it's either way, but I don't know if it's required.
I think from conversations I've had, the intent is recuse and remove, so that you're not hearing the conversation, you're not participating in any way possible. But I agree with Andy and Evan that I think the statute for meetings during COVID covers it.
But we do also allow members to participate. I have participated before COVID remotely, by phone. So I guess there are situations where we potentially, even beyond COVID and without authorization to do a remote meeting. I think the way it's been handled, as long as you have, I think, a quorum in the room, the other participants can participate remotely. So yeah, I guess, Vince, there might be a valid reason to do it, to add another.
Yeah,
You know, drop from the meeting if attending remotely or something like that.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, do we need to, I think it's fine as present. Like, do we need to do it tonight, or can we work on that at some date in the future and then have that up for next year? Or approve it later, or approve an amendment to this policy later in the year?
My experience with that is we are busy doing many other things. We never come back to it.
All right. Yeah, I would say, sorry, I probably should have worded something before I something out there, but let's say, yeah. So like, if present via digital communications.
So I think Greg's writing it for you.
Oh, is he? Oh, Greg, you.
I wrote something. I don't know. Is it?
I think it's
a suggestion.
Yeah, that's.
Board members participating remotely shall leave the meeting during the item for which they have recused themselves.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, thanks, Vince. Thanks, Greg. Any other comments on this document? Does the public have any comments, questions, concerns? Okay, I don't see any hands up, so if a board member would like to make a motion.
I will move that the Select Board approve the Town of Essex Conflict of Interest Policy with the amendment to Article 10A.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Tracy and Don. Any other comments before we vote? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, on to 6G, consider approval, 6H, consider approval of the communications policy. Greg.
Next up, communications policy. One small proposed change this year, something that Andy had brought up. It's under section 1 for public communication for the select board, adding the words or social media, so that elected and appointed board, committee, and commission members must be mindful to prevent email or social media conversations from inadvertently violating open meeting law. That's the only change so far to the communications policy, unless the rest of the board has any other thoughts.
Any comments from anybody? We have in the past talked about putting together a separate social media policy. The recommended document from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns is a 12-page document. And rather than try to wrestle with that this evening, I think this is a very small compromise here to add this comment in here. Patrick.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it codifies what we should kind of be doing anyway. So absolutely no problems with having that in here.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or concerns, comments about anything in the document? I know earlier in the meeting, there were some members of the public that expressed concern about our communications policy. Any comments or questions from the public? Annie Cooper.
I feel confident that both my email and my words were powerful enough that y'all would, I just wanted to make sure that I'm clear that I feel confident in your respect of my sharing that you would do whatever you felt was correct based on that. Would you like me to say out loud what I think, or I feel as though my words and the words of others that spoke with me and my email lends itself to what the board should do in that regard. Would you disagree?
Can I'll ask a question to clarify. The concern is with posting on in places like Front Porch Forum, or potentially letters to the editor and the reporter, or things like that, individual members of the select board, and how that may be perceived. Is that your concern?
Yeah, and I guess if I could just frankly state what I learned today from others, just through organic conversation that occurred, is that it sounded like people were mostly concerned that an individual only use an individual platform for that output. I don't know. I'm trying to articulate. I feel like we were all clear, and you understand, and I feel like you're going to sort it out appropriately. Am I correct?
There's a section in the communication policy that says that any member that's posing or posting their own opinion needs to make it clear that they are doing so. There's also a point in there that says that an individual select board member cannot present the position of the board. That's the select board chair's obligation to do that, and another member can't do it unless authorized by the entire select board to do so, or by a majority of the select board to do so. In the case that has raised a lot of concern, I did post a number of times in my own Front Porch Forum, and many members of the public asked me to share it across all of the forums, including the current select board chair. And so I came to the select board asking for permission to do that. And so it doesn't specifically say in here that an individual member can't post in a media that goes to the entire town, because I could have written letters to the editor, to the Essex Reporter, which goes to whomever goes to look at it. So I don't know. I don't know that we adequately address your concern in this document.
First of all, I have to say I really greatly, deeply value that you outreached to the meeting to ask this. I really feel very respected and valued, and thank you for that. I appreciate the time that you're taking to clarify with me. In particular, I feel that the Front Porch Forum situation is such that it lands in individual inboxes, and there was, if I can figure, I'm just trying to find a clear articulation. It was prolific from only one person. And I guess if it was prolific from, all the board members, which it isn't. So I guess, I don't know how to say, I think it's only, and I was there, Andy, I encouraged you also to do so. I guess I just figured there would be a limit. I didn't expect it to be something that was a regular feature in my inbox. And yeah. But anyway, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to tell the select board what to do either. My personal opinion is that I go back in time and restate my opinion. I always welcome your opinion. I think it's great that you give it. I think it's maybe too much that it's landing in individual inboxes with that much regularity from only one person with very strong opinions and very long, I don't know. So maybe that Front Porch Forum lives back where, back where we first thought it should. That's my input.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
To be clear, a select board member can only post twice a month. So there were only 2 posts in a given month. So I don't know that it was constantly in your inbox, unless others were posting it. It's possible that others were posting my words, and I can't control that.
I think it was.
Yeah, but I understand, and as I said in the meeting where I came to ask for permission to do this, I really agonized over whether it was appropriate to do so, and I will certainly continue to reconsider that. And but it's hard to put a content in our policy document specific to a single platform. So maybe we need to think about that more. I don't know.
I really honestly feel so valued. Thank you. And I was there and said to you, I also said it to you. So I am in this with you in that way. I was there. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thanks, Annie. Ken Signorello.
Thank you. To me, dissenting views are very important. Even our Supreme Court of the United States publishes a dissenting view, and it's published in the same fashion as the original decision is. So certainly I'm interested to hear dissenting views. I think that it does need to be moderated in such a way that if it's just twice a month, that certainly seems reasonable. But I value it and would encourage select board members, in whatever way you folks decide is appropriate, to express their dissenting views when they have them.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Patty Davis. Patty, you're muted.
Sorry, ditto exactly what Ken said. I was going to bring the same thing up. So that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Patty. Any other comments?
Harlan Smith has his hand up, but he's up in the presenters block.
Harlan.
Hi, congratulations, Andy.
Thank you.
So when Greg had that up, I kept rereading it, and obviously in email, you can tell if you're presenting a quorum, if there were other people in there. So I guess I was reading it and I'm looking through it, and it was like, in order for you to make sure that you're not inadvertently being in a quorum, how would you know that on a social media platform? How, because I mean, if you put it in here, couldn't you potentially get a select board member burned by inadvertently being on a conversation? How would you track that as a select board member on whether or not you might be a quorum? Would you have to read all comments and see if 2 other members? So I guess that's where I'm kind of heading with this. Maybe there's a reason for a 12-page document, and that you could potentially, by putting this in here, tell all select board members that they can't go on social media, or they can't be a member of one of the public groups. So it's just food for thought. Like I said, maybe there's a reason for a 12-page document, because I almost feel like you're banning select board members from social media here. I could be wrong, but as I continue to read it, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So those are my comments, something for you guys to consider.
Yeah, so Harlan, that is a very tough question to make. I am not a member of any of those communities. I am on Facebook. I post about my mom, what I'm doing with her all the time. I post on a lot of personal things, but I do not ever post anything about town business. And the issue is exactly what you say, is that you have no way of knowing who sees your post. And Harlan, it's not just who comments on your post, it's who sees it, because there's case law that says that you can have passive participation, which means if you hear a discussion, you're participating in that discussion. And so the same, I believe, and this is my interpretation of the open meeting law. So others may have different opinions, but this is the way I view it, is that It is totally inappropriate for any select board member to post anything on social media about town business. That's my opinion. And as I said, others may have a different opinion. The case law that's out there actually involves email discussions. You can be a passive participant in an email discussion and still violate by not responding, but you're still violating open meeting law because you've seen it. There's no case law specific to social media, but I don't think we want to be the first one.
Well,
again, that's my interpretation, and I know that others may view it differently. I see Patrick has his hand up too.
Right.
Oh.
So maybe I'm sorry. I'm just going to follow up just a little bit.
Yeah,
here.
go ahead. Go ahead, Harlan.
Again, so putting the social media in without any case law, I mean, maybe you consider having legal take a look at it before you make these changes, or maybe you make the changes and then have legal take a look at it. I'm not sure which way to go with it. I'm just, like I said, social media is a tricky one, really tricky one.
It is.
So it's probably something we should be looking at deeper. Thanks.
Thanks, Harlan. See, Patrick had his hand up.
Yeah, I don't know if it's helpful at all, Harlan, but I mean, as Andy mentioned, I do take a slightly differing view of it, although I think not too far afield from what he holds. But I do, before entering a conversation on social media, check to see throughout the thread who has responded and who has not. And if there is a select board member or multiple select board members, then I will avoid commenting. I generally try to avoid, in general, massive town business, but sometimes I feel it's unavoidable. There can be a critical issue that can get raised on social media that people, may feel they need an answer to right away. So social media obviously is a fantastic tool for that. But, it is incumbent on us to sometimes go that extra 2 or 3 steps to take a look and see who's contributed so far, what we're allowed to say. It's just how I end up going through and taking a look at the post and how I decide what I should and should not chime in on.
Okay, Vince?
Yeah, so I have VLCT's 12-page thingy open for social media compliance. I can read the section 12, which is open meeting law compliance, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
It just kind of outlines what their recommendations are. So municipal officials must comply with Vermont's open meeting law when using municipal social media. All posts by members of the municipality's public body that relate to municipal business are subject to the open meeting law. Members elected or appointed of any municipal public body should refrain from using municipal social media to discuss the business of the public body or to take official action in violation of open meeting law. A member of a public body who likes, shares, tweets, or otherwise engages in other members' content on municipal social media may be communicating municipal business, and that open meeting law may apply. Furthermore, members of public bodies should refrain from posting content on or responding to inquiries related to quasi-judicial matters within the subject matter jurisdiction of their respective public bodies. Members of the public bodies may utilize municipal social media for gathering public input and fostering public discussion related to the role with which the public body has been charged by statute, or the select board, council, village trustees, etc., provided that the use is authorized in accordance with Vermont law and conforms to this policy. Information posted by the municipality on its social media will supplement, not replace, required notices and standard methods of proving warnings, postings, and notifications required to be made with regard to public meetings and hearings under Vermont law. I don't really see a lot about the personal accounts, but I think, the gist of what they're getting at here is that is kind of don't interact and don't use it more to build public, discussion or to gauge public input rather than speaking about town business amongst each other. That's my take on it, but yeah.
Thanks, Vince. Tracy?
Yeah, I did take an open meetings training refresher with BLCT last week. And the guidance was basically, community pages can be a wealth of information, but you should overall refrain from commenting or posting and interacting to avoid any potential breaches of open meeting law.
Thanks, Tracy. The other challenging piece is if there's a public records request related to a specific topic, you would need to be able to produce all of your postings for the public records request. So we don't have that policy in place around that yet, but it may be good practice that if you do post things about town business that you keep a copy of it, because you can't always retrieve those things from Facebook or others. So that's the other concern I have. So Vince, you get your hand back up again.
Oh, sorry, that's a leftover.
Okay. Any other comments? I see a couple public hands up. Ken, is it still up or is it up again? Ken Signorillo. Not hearing anything from Ken. So Aaron Dickinson.
Hi, yep, this is just an informational question because I recently rejoined the Essex Community Facebook page after taking a year off, and I'm kind of sometimes wondering why I did that, why I rejoined, because it's been quite active. And actually, a village trustee had posted a post on that page that was very interactive about merger, and it dawned on me, is there any quorum issues between the trustees and select board combined if there's a combination of them being involved in discussion, or is that not okay? Because I was really surprised to have seen it in that venue and so active, and anyhow, so I was really curious because I know that there's been some questioning about you posting in the front page forum or front porch forum, and then I saw that and I was like, well, that's very interactive, so I was surprised to see that. So I didn't know if there was any quorum issues or that type of thing.
No, not between boards, no.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yep, thanks for the question. Ken Signorillo, your hand is up. Is it a leftover, or are you wanting to come in again? Okay, I am going to assume it is a leftover hand. Any other comments from anyone? Okay, so let's see. So which policy are we talking about now?
Communications?
Did we already approve that?
No.
No, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
We've got did we get a motion in a second?
Not yet. We're having
Oh.
discussion first.
Okay, I guess I have this written down wrong. I'm glad I asked the question. Okay, if there's no other discussion, entertain a motion to approve as amended.
I make the motion that we, go ahead, Tracy.
I move that the select board approve the town of Essex communication policy with the change as presented by Greg.
Second.
Okay, thanks Tracy, thanks Don. So it turns out I had it written down right, just that hadn't happened yet. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to the computer use policy. Greg?
last policy of the night, the select board's computer use policy. One small change, I think, proposed by staff. It's number 7, submission of materials for packet had been in the computer use policy. With the change in addition to the rules and regulations for orderly conduct of procedures, I think it makes sense to strike this from the computer use policy, keep it in one place, make sure we're just having it in one area so we don't lose track of updating it in one or the other, and have one place to point to for the select board.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Any comments or questions on this document? Okay, no board member comments. Any comments from the public? I don't see any hands up other than the one that's still up from Ken. Okay, hearing no comments, entertain a motion to approve as amended.
I motion the select board approve the town of Essex select board computer use policy as amended.
Second.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Don. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next agenda item 6J, consider approval of select board meeting schedule. Is this you again, Greg?
This is me. So the other thing the select board does at its reorg meeting each year, in addition to adopting and approving the policies for the year, is to set its meeting schedule. Meetings typically are the first and third Monday of the month for the select board. Linda has put together an agenda, or excuse me, a proposed schedule for your packet. She's made some adjustments for holidays, usually moving the meeting to a Tuesday. I believe we have one conflict in February where that Tuesday would be a trustee meeting. So she proposed, staff is proposing a Wednesday meeting that week in February. And also one of you, I forget which, so I'm sorry, pointed out that Bennington Battle Day is on August 16th this year. That's a state holiday. Town staff is off, so would propose that this become August 17th to accommodate that holiday. The other change you'll see is that we have removed the joint meetings with the trustees that have been happening for the past couple of years or so. We have a strategic meeting, a strategic planning session scheduled for June. Might be a good time to talk about how you want to handle joint business. We do certainly still have a lot of joint business between the select board and the trustees, but for the time being, looking to take those joint meetings out and just approve the regularly scheduled meetings for the select board each month. Happy to answer questions about that or take any feedback.
Okay, any board member comments, questions? Tracy?
Yeah, I was wondering if the board would be willing to consider a change based on the fact that agendas typically come out at the end of the day on Friday. Select board members typically read them over the weekend, get their questions in. Staff then has one day, which is Monday, to respond to those questions. So I was curious what other members thought about possibly moving it to Tuesday, just to give staff more time to answer those questions that come in. And it would also allow the public to know that, meetings, be it the trustees or the select board, always happen on Tuesday, just for discussion.
Anybody have any other comments or response to that?
I would just like to hear staff's thoughts on that real quick.
I would have a hard time making Tuesdays, but also concerned because I believe that the first and third Tuesdays of the month are select board school board meetings for EWSD. So we would have I would rather avoid a constant regular conflict with Essex Westford and the select board if we can avoid it.
Okay, any other comments on that? The other challenge is that the trustees meet on the, I guess it would work out. I withdraw my comment. Evan.
If you're asking for staff's input, my input is I've long been a proponent of moving to Tuesdays for exactly what Tracy has mentioned. It's probably also particularly why Essex Westford is on a Tuesday and the village is on a Tuesday. We appreciate your comments over the weekend, but more times than not, we don't answer them until Monday. And whatever changes need to occur, then need to occur that day before the meeting, if there are any changes. So I don't have the exact number, but at least half of all holidays occur on a Monday. And then there are the times when Christmas is on a Monday. It could be somewhere in that weekend. The other thing is now that, we look to have some virtual and in-person meetings, both for the board members, there is the ability for board members to actually go away for the weekend and not have to bust to get back and whatever happens to their flight in the weather, etc. So it is certainly up to you, but it's out there. We've been a proponent of it. And we very rarely, again, with virtual, if the school board is meeting that night, the school board's meeting that night. We have different functions. If there's something hot, maybe one of us moves it, but remind me, I think they have 10 members. So you choose, but it would make for a smoother packet and then answer of questions. Thank you.
I'm a stick in the mud and I like Mondays because I guess we've always done on Mondays, but no real reason, I guess.
Yeah, to be clear, I'm not wholly against I could probably make Tuesdays work, but I do think that we do hear when there are two important issues that come up and they both happen to be on, when we have had those instances where we've had to move to a Tuesday and we happen to clash with a school board meeting, we hear, why didn't someone take a look at this and change the meetings? So if we set ourselves up to automatically always be going up against the school board, I just think that it's a difficult kind of sell, not just for necessarily us and what we do, though I appreciate the need for staff to have that extra time. It's just, we're asking our public to pick one or the other. And I don't think that's really necessarily a fair position to put them in.
So in that vein, would Wednesdays work? No.
Let's just stick with what we got.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I wasn't formally, moving that we change it. It was just for the discussion.
Yeah, I have the same feelings as Pat about making people choose between select board meetings or school board meetings if each of them has a important issue that people want to participate in. I know I think we have had instances where people were on two different computers and we could hear a different meeting going on at the same time, because people wanted to attend both. I don't know. John, any thoughts?
I'm flexible, but I don't like being in conflict with the school board because I know a lot of people that watch school board meetings also watch our meetings.
All right. Sounds like consensus is to stay on Monday. We can certainly have the discussion more at some point. We certainly, at some point, we'll be having the discussion about when to have joint meetings. So this may come up again, since we had the trustees were having to do many times back-to-back meetings, a joint meeting and then their regular meeting this past year. I was going to propose that we do our joint meetings on Tuesdays so that we're the ones that are doing the back-to-back meetings this coming year, but we'll have to have that discussion. We're going to end up with the same conflict, I guess, we would have here with the school board.
Telling you, give some love to Wednesday. Is there a logistical problem with Wednesday? Just for my own curiosity.
I'm at work on Wednesdays.
Come on, Pat.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly can and do attend these meetings on occasion during times that I'm at work, but it's probably not something that I could change at this point.
Okay, Greg, I noticed on the budget calendar has changed dramatically. We've moved from January to November, and I did see the email from Sarah saying that that's an intentional change to allow more time for closing the budget. My only concern with the November 9 date is that, as Sarah confirmed, we won't have full knowledge of the fund balance at that point. So I don't know if that's a concern for others or not. Or maybe it's something we address when we get there. Go ahead, Greg.
Sure. Just to fill in some of the other board members, Andy asked about the November board meeting. For the budget, Sarah responded that she is trying to, like Andy said, get the budget presented a little bit earlier this year. As far as the fund balance, she's not hoping that the November meeting will be the one and done. It's over and done with. So there'll be other opportunities to look at the budget and weigh in on the budget before it's approved. But Sarah is hoping to move up the presentation date by a couple months, almost in the case this year. So that is what's proposed, and happy to take feedback on it. Sarah's hoping that this way will allow for some more meaningful discussion if the budget review is drawn out over a few more weeks by starting in November.
This doesn't change the date that we need to warn the vote on. It just allows us more time to discuss it. So if we need to fill in with more information, we can.
Correct.
As the calendar moves. Yeah. Okay.
We will still, it's just to elaborate on what Andy just said, the town meeting warning needs to be warned 30 to 40 days before town meeting. That's typically when we finalize the budget and get the information out, final information out.
Evan?
Also, we're putting together two budgets at the same time. We have the village budget and the town budget. And so by kind of starting a little bit earlier, just in case there's any issues between the two budgets and the fundings that go in between the two, village and the town, we're able to know that a little bit earlier and work on things of that nature. But the warnings stay the same for approvals.
Okay, then the other question that I had raised is the second meeting in February. This is a unique year that the town meeting is not. It's actually in February. It's not in March, right? Or the informational meeting. And so the one on the 23rd, that's a Wednesday. The 21st is a holiday. The 22nd is the village board meeting. So you've proposed the 23rd, and I know that week is I assume that week is likely pretty hectic getting ready for town meeting the following Monday. So my question there is the 23rd or the 14th the right place to move it? Or are we getting into people's Valentine's Day celebrations if we try to move that meeting earlier to avoid the cramming that last week? I don't know what does staff feel about.
You could eliminate it.
Or just eliminate the meeting.
Keep it on until we need to remove it or keep it on.
Okay.
I'm not a big Valentine's Day celebrator in my family, but I think other people are, so it might not go over so well with some others.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, not in my family. No, we just go skiing.
I strongly suggest you keep the Valentine's Day off.
Okay.
You know what? You can do anything, but if you eliminate it, then we won't fill it until we need to. How about that for a winter gift?
So leave it on the calendar, but don't put anything on the agenda unless we need to. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'd like to have you remove it, and then we won't fill it, and we will only bring it back if necessary.
So
I won't remember.
Yeah,
remember 8 months from now what we said about February 22nd.
Yeah, my concern is that we'll find something that we need to address before the informational meeting that Monday, and then we won't have a meeting. You know, the 3 weeks between the 7th and the 28th. Yeah, but I get what you're saying. If it's not on the calendar, you won't plan anything for it. But if we need a meeting, we can have a special meeting.
Correct.
What do others think?
I'm okay just leaving this all as it is. And then if we need to make specific changes later on at some point, then we can. If we feel in February we don't need it, we can pull it off. But for now, at least, just for the sake of getting a calendar created, I'm happy to go with what's been presented.
All right, any other comments?
I'm in agreement with Pat.
Same.
Okay, so the only change is moving August 16th to the 17th to avoid Bennington Battle Day. It's probably something that doesn't need to be discussed with the public, so I'm ready to hear a motion.
I'll make a motion that the select board approve the proposed meeting schedule for 2021-2022 with the change of August 16th, 2001 to August 17th, 2001.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Don, were you saying 22?
Right. No, never mind. It's 2021 to 2022. I thought she had, never mind. Go ahead. We're good. Call the vote.
Yeah, it's August of this year. Yeah. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, on to the next agenda item, which is appoint a select board member to the Cannabis Study Committee. Greg, are you covering that?
I am. So the community development departments have been tasked with doing some outreach and research into legal cannabis and what that means for the community. Previously, currently a town needs to opt in to be able to do retail cannabis. There's just recently been some draft legislation passed by the Vermont Senate that would require towns to opt out by, I believe it's 2023, although I forget the exact date. Otherwise, they will be automatically opted in. So that puts a little bit more onus on the municipalities if that passes through and becomes full law. Either way, it's been a topic of interest for both the select board and the trustees of how the community wants to handle cannabis in Essex. And so the community development department is forming a study committee search group to do some research, get feedback from the community, from our residents or businesses, and make a recommendation to the boards of how to proceed and whether to put this on a ballot at some point. Hoping to put together a committee with a select board member, a trustee, somebody from the police department, somebody from the Economic Development Commission, somebody from the planning commissions and the zoning boards, and each of the ComDev directors. So I can try to answer any questions about the committee or the statute tonight. Might have to bring some information back to you if you get too deep into the weeds, because I'm not the expert on it at this point. But certainly just looking for, see if one of the board members wants to step up and be part of that committee that's going to be looking into cannabis.
Okay, any questions from board members or any volunteers?
I'd like to volunteer.
Okay.
I also like to volunteer.
Go ahead.
Vince
sorry.
wants to volunteer too.
Don, we get to duke it out.
And I think Pat wants to do it too, for that matter. Okay.
Don,
Pat's bowing out.
Don, you go first.
No, that's all right. I've just followed this issue and been very interested in it since it first started. But if that's something you want to do, Vince, that's fine. I have other things I can find to do. So.
Oh, now you're making me feel guilty, Don.
Don't feel
no,
guilty.
This is an issue that's kind of near and dear to my heart. I went through. I herniated disc, and without cannabis, I don't know where I'd be. So yeah, it's something I'm really passionate about and something I'd really like to help bring into the community. I also kind of wonder if Greg's deep in the weeds comment was on purpose or not, but you know.
Good catch, Vince, but no, that was an accidental pun. You're welcome.
Oh, okay. Thank you. You're just feeding me softballs tonight. Yeah, so I'd really love to be part of this.
So Don, you okay with that, or do you want to duke it out? Should we have a discussion?
I'm fine. Let him do it.
Okay.
That's fine. No problem.
All right. Greg, I do have one question with regard to the implementation or statute or whatever. The town and the village can have to each have a vote, right? So they don't need, they're not, I guess my question is, if the town votes, does that include the village? Or if the village chooses not to vote, or do they also have to vote? Or do you not know, or do you know that?
I do not know, Andy. That's a good question, though. My non-legal opinion or thought would probably be that if the town makes a decision, that'll stand town-wide unless the village decides to go a different route. Hold me to that, but that's my...
Yeah. They may want to vote anyway. And I'm not trying to set a position or anything like that. I'm just asking for clarification if there is any yet. Okay.
But that is certainly something this committee can also look to see what guidance there is on that.
Yep. And I get, the questions that come to my mind are, do you develop the zoning ordinances first, or do you decide whether you want to opt in before you develop the zoning ordinances, right? Those kind of questions, I guess, are other things that need to be discussed, right? Do you do all the work to figure out how to zone for it, not knowing whether or not the community will accept it, and I guess what is the process for updating the zoning? Is it a regular ordinance process with public hearings and so forth?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to handle, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
I think there's a lot of ways to handle that and approach that. The opt-in or opt-out at this point, my understanding is that it applies to retail. It does not apply to commercial or growing wholesale operations, I believe. Zoning-wise, those are handled differently. Are they handled as agriculture or industrial operations versus retail? If you're going to do retail, are you going to handle it like any old retail business? Are you going to create a conditional use, which means it needs to go to the zoning board, has an extra layer of review? I know the trustees have talked a little bit about creating safe routes to school zones, keeping it a certain distance from schools if for retail operations, if that's the case. So I think there's a lot of different ways it could happen through zoning, or through ordinance, or through a town-wide vote, depending on what kind of restrictions are proposed or put into place. As for the zoning update process, the village right now is updating its land development code. The town ComDev department starting to take a look at its zoning regulations and go through that review process. Generally speaking, to update the zoning regulation, that starts with the planning commission. Once it's approved by the planning commission, it goes up to the select board, and there's at least one, maybe two, I can't remember off the top of my head, public hearings before anything gets approved and adopted. So it is a really lengthy public review process that certainly gets its share of attention.
And then my only comment to add to that is, since the state hasn't really finished their legislative oversight, some of the things that we're hearing is the town/village regulations are going to be minimal. They are giving very little latitude, other than maybe some leeway to school zones and other things. They are doing all the regulating, and pretty much what it's being, there is a little bit of public input locally, but a lot of it is being state driven and giving a wide berth to the industry, including revenue and licensing fees and operating issues of when they can and can't operate. As Greg just mentioned, it completely excludes any of the agricultural or manufacturing elements of it. Those are going to be permitted. So at least that's what it looks like.
Patrick, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I had some specific questions about local option tax, which we know we need to adopt if we're going to see any financial, windfall from this. So I'm just trying to think of at least how does staff envision that coming together? I know that the EDC has started to have some discussions about looking at the local option. It's been on our plate a handful of times before. I'm imagining we're going to want to take it up sooner rather than later. Are you imagining, like, staff-wise, that we would potentially be putting a local option at the same time as an opt-in, opt-out cannabis vote, to kind of marry the two together? I mean, I'm not sure it makes a ton of sense as a community for us to host this if we're, we have no ability to, cover the costs that are going to come with it as well. And then I guess more specifically, as far as the local option goes, like, how much leeway do we have in assessing, what gets placed onto cannabis? Is it a flat, like, do we get like 1 penny for every dollar of sale, or are we allowed to put more than that? Is there, I guess, there's a lot of unknowns, and I'm not sure how much of this is going to be the committee and how much of this we need to look at completely independently, because I'm not sure that they're necessarily going to take up local option. That's a much bigger conversation than just cannabis. But obviously it needs to be addressed if we're looking at this at the same time. Sorry, that was like a lot of big questions, I think. So feel free to start wherever.
Well, Mr. Chair, since Greg had his hands up, I'll let him go first, and whatever he doesn't cover,
yeah, go ahead,
I know
Greg.
he knows it pretty well.
Oh, I'm sure you can fill in some blanks, Evan. So Pat, to answer your first question, you're absolutely right. The only direct financial benefit from having retail cannabis in the town would be if there's a local option tax. At this point, it would be the 1% on the sales tax, unless the state changes its guidance or its available taxation policy on cannabis. That is what's proposed right now. Certainly I'm sure somebody could make an argument that having these shops in town will bring in other customers for other reasons to shop here, but whether or not that's a valid argument, I'll let someone else decide. As for the timing, good question. Nothing has been decided yet. Certainly these, studying the local option tax that the EDC and staff are doing is going to be happening pretty much concurrently with studying cannabis and how to roll that out. You'll have community development working on both at the same time. Manager's office will be involved in both at the same time, so we can certainly, and EDC for that matter, is going to have a representative. Economic Development Commission will have a representative on this cannabis study committee too. So there'll be enough overlap there to probably understand the pros and cons of doing something together or separately whenever the recommendations come up to the select board and trustees as to how you might want to proceed, whether it's recommendations or just information on how to decide the timing of it. Did I answer everything?
Yes, I think so.
So Evan, you're off the hook.
Can't answer any better.
Okay, any other select board comments, questions? Okay, I see Annie Cooper has her hand up. Annie?
Just an opinion as the chair of the Economic Development Commission. I feel like the two conversations happening, what's that word where it's at the same time but it's not together, right? Or concurrently. I think that there's going to be an organic kind of flow where my mother didn't stop when I declined the button. I'm so sorry. I don't know if you can hear that. Can you or no?
Yep.
So I think that if we just tell my mother to stop calling me right now, great. Sorry. Thank you for your patience. I didn't know how to stop it. I think that there will be an organic flow. And I think that the two conversations kind of happening at the same time will meander into a thing where they don't land at the same place at the same time at all, but that it's important and valuable that the discussions, I don't know if this is helping, but this is the thought I had when the question was asked. I feel like it will be a kind of an organic forward experience where the timing of each thing just figures its way through the community, through the hands of the surveys and onto your table in a way that's comfortable. That's what I want to say. I don't know if that helps, but that's my insight. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Annie. Any other comments from the public? Don't see any hands up, so Tracy.
Yeah, just as an FYI, I did reach out to our State House delegation with a question about whether there were conversations happening about adding in a cannabis local option tax similar to the meals and rooms and alcohol, as opposed to combining it all into sales tax. I haven't heard a definitive answer back, but I also think that that's a valid discussion for this group as well, in coordination with what the EDC is talking about.
Okay, Annie, I see your hand again. Go ahead.
Yeah, Tracy makes an excellent point. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to involve myself like I'm there with you at the table, but Tracy's point was also discussion at our meeting, and also I heard something randomly about the legislator, and then someone else was talking about a THC tax, if I'm saying that correctly. And so I agree that conversation needs to take place. And Tracy, if you don't mind, is it okay if I borrow this piece and throw it into conversation at the EDC, or do you want me to leave it be so that I don't want to take something from you that you're on a path about?
You're good. Go for it.
Thank you very much. Sorry to interrupt you guys.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, if not, someone like to make a motion to appoint Vince?
I make the motion that we appoint Vince Franco to the Cannabis Study Board. We're calling it.
Second that.
Tracy seconds. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, the next two agenda items are executive session, so we will come back to those. We're moving on to consent. Would somebody like to move approval of the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any comments on the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to reading file. Any comments on the reading file? Any of the components in there? Okay, I did want to make one comment. Pat and I did have some discussions about whether there was a possibility of sharing responsibility for leadership on the select board. We did review the charter, and it does specifically say that we'll elect a chair and a vice chair and a clerk, and it specifically says that in our charter that the chair will run all meetings that the chair is present at. But Pat and I are still talking about how we may, on a topic by topic basis, assign Pat to be the chair for that topic and run that portion of the meeting. We haven't settled on anything yet, but we're still having those discussions. Also did have some discussions with staff about this concept, and they are saying that as long as we make it very clear who owns which topics, that we can that they would support it. I may be asking Pat to join in discussions for setting agendas, so that would be the point, I think, where we would likely decide who's going to run which parts of each meeting. We'll probably there are municipalities that alternate weeks or alternate meetings. I was concerned with having topics that cross meetings end up getting discontinuous if the same person isn't running that particular topic. So that's something Pat and I are talking about. If there's others that have any comments about how you think it might work, or I'd like to contribute to that conversation, I'd be happy to hear those comments. That's not a warned item here, so I don't really want to have the discussion here, but if it's appropriate, we could potentially have a future discussion about this. But if you have any comments, send them to either Pat or I. Don't send them to both of us, because that becomes a three-way discussion. And so we can go forward from there. I don't know if Pat, if you wanted to add anything else to that.
No, I think you covered it really well. I think Andy and I both, it goes back to a lot what I mentioned at earlier parts of the meeting. We both recognize that we have a really divided town. We have an advantage, and be it while we're represented, the select board to represent all of Essex, does happen. I live in the village. Andy lives in the TOV. And on the board, hoping that we can pattern some working together, collaboratively, is going to be something that the community can look to going forward. And, it's something that Andy was very gracious in talking about. So it's, I think it's definitely kind of a new thing, but I think it's potentially really cool. So look forward to talking more about it.
Okay, any other reading file comments?
I'm all set.
All right, Tracy, thank you for your service on the ZBA.
Very welcome.
Okay, so then let's circle back to the executive session. There's 2 of them, so I think we have 4 motions that need to be made and approved. And I believe we need to come back to approve something or to authorize, if we agree to authorize the manager to execute something, or am I?
You're correct. If the board is comfortable with the AFSCME contract, you'll have to come back into public session to authorize the manager to execute that contract.
Okay, and so would we come back to this meeting, or I guess we would have to, yeah, okay. Okay, so looks like Greg has the motions up. There's 2 topics. There's a pending and probable civil litigation, and the possible action to execute the AFSCME contract. So if somebody's willing to make the 2 motions that are shown.
Take a stab at it. I move that the select board make the specific finding that general public knowledge of pending or probable litigation to which the body is or may be a party would place the town at a substantial disadvantage. I also move
So
that the
let's do the
yeah, we
motions
can't do
separately.
them both.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And okay, do
I'll
I have
second.
a second? Is that Don?
That's
Or was
Tracy.
that Tracy? Tracy, yep, sorry. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Vince?
Oh, if somebody else wants to do motion 2.
I'll go for it, Vince.
Alrighty. I move that the select board enter into executive session to discuss pending or probable civil litigation to which the public body is or may be party pursuant to 1 VSA 313 A1E to include the unified manager, deputy manager, and HR director.
Second.
Okay, I think that was Don. Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, now the next executive session, the 2 more motions.
Oh, I move that the select board make the specific finding that premature general public knowledge of the town's position concerning ongoing contract negotiations and labor relations agreements with employees would place the town at a substantial disadvantage.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Tracy and Don. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Greg, do you have your hand up?
Whenever you're done this, sorry.
Okay, all right. Okay, Tracy, would you like to do the second motion?
Sure. I move that
That's
this.
what I wanted to jump in. Wanted to
You
make sure you
do.
got finish the first motion, sorry.
Okay.
Second motion, you just need the unified manager, the HR director, and the deputy manager. You do not
Okay.
need the assistant to the manager or the town engineer.
Okay, cool. I move that the select board enter into executive session to discuss contracts and labor relations agreements with the employees pursuant to 1 VSA 313 A1A and 1 VSA 313 A1B to include the unified manager, deputy manager, and HR director.
Second.
Thank you, Tracy and Don. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion passes. We will exit this meeting go into executive session, and we will come back if we need to take action.
Okay, so as I understand it, just you guys can leave the meeting. I'm gonna leave the meeting open. So when you just click back onto your link to come back and re-click on the executive session. See you in executive session.
All right, all right.
authorize the unified manager to execute a contract with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, ASME, for 2021 to 2024.
Thank you, Don. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Tracy. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And, you know, at the risk of taking one extra minute for the people who are in the audience, a lot of very good discussion in the executive session. Can't get into too many details, but like to thank the negotiating team that was on the town side and the negotiating team on the AFSCME side for keeping it, you know, professional, pointed, and we felt that when both sides come to a ratification, it's a good thing, and labor harmony is a good thing. And as we mentioned many times before, we are not just looking at this contract, we look out into the future, and this contract is overall in benefit to the town in the long-term future, as it takes care of a couple of long-standing issues that needed, we felt, attention. So thank you all for your time and attention, and thanks for your ratification.
Okay, great. I guess we just have one more matter of business here.
Mr. Chair, I
move we
make a
adjourn.
motion, we adjourn.
All right, thank you, Don. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Okay, thanks, Vince. Motions to adjourn are not debatable, so those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? All right. Good night, everybody.
Great job, Travis, Greg, team.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Everyone.